On January 11, 2022, the skies over Korea witnessed the flight of a hypersonic missile, which not only breached the resolutions set by the United Nations Security Council, but also ignited discussions about North Korea's rapid progression in nuclear technology, even with stringent sanctions against them due to past infringements. The erratic actions and aggressive threats towards other countries have left many worldwide pondering why no concrete action has been taken against the North Korean leadership. Considering the prolonged isolation, hunger, inadequate facilities, and perpetual fear endured by its citizens, one might question why North Koreans haven't been freed yet. After all, other regimes have collapsed for lesser reasons. Let's delve into potential strategies to address the North Korean issue comprehensively. I will discuss both promising solutions and those that might not be as practical. Given the gravity of the situation, assassination might appear as an appealing solution. While cinema often portrays secret agents infiltrating other nations to destabilize governments, could a similar approach work for Kim Jong-un? However, it's not straightforward. Intense suspicion often results in heightened security. As per several high-ranking North Korean defectors who have exposed the covert workings of the regime, Kim Jong-un is exceptionally distrustful. This is the same leader who ordered the execution of his own relative, believing he was part of a plot backed by China to overthrow him. To comprehend the challenges an external assassination attempt would face, one needs to consider the geography and topographical challenges of North Korea. North Korea, often referred to as the recluse state, presents formidable challenges for any outsider trying to enter, let alone depart unnoticed. To navigate across its 120,000 square kilometers of rugged terrain, replete with caves under constant surveillance by North Korean intelligence and armed forces, would be a Herculean task. If an infiltrator managed to reach this far, the next obstacle would be approaching Kim Jong-un, a daunting task due to the vast security detail he is always surrounded by. Kim Jong-un operates within a close-knit group, primarily family, and frequently shifts his whereabouts. Moreover, any foreign interference would inadvertently lend credence to the extensive anti-West and anti-South Korea propaganda North Koreans are subjected to. Simply targeting Kim Jong-un wouldn't suffice. The entire Kim lineage would be in the crosshairs, making the notion of assassination by external forces extremely improbable. The only plausible perpetrators might be a party insider, an insurgent faction, or perhaps a disgruntled kin. Yet, finding an insider willing to jeopardize their life and forego the stream of perks that come with Kim Jong-un's favor seems far-fetched. High-ranking officials, when sensing peril, tend to defect rather than plot against the leader. For instance, Tae Yong-ho, a North Korean diplomat, chose defection over confrontation while on a diplomatic mission. Entrusting a family member with such a treacherous task seems unlikely too, especially considering Kim Jong-un's demonstrated ruthlessness towards relatives like his half-brother Kim Jong-nam and his uncle Jang Song-thaek. Those in Kim's inner circle are either unwaveringly loyal or, at the very least, masterful at feigning allegiance. Suppose, through a blend of fortunate events and strategic maneuvers, Kim Jong-un is successfully removed from power. What follows might not be ideal. Either someone from the Workers' Party, or more feasibly his spouse or sibling, would likely assume control, safeguarding the leadership until one of his offspring matures to inherit the reins. During this young successor's upbringing, the North Korean military would likely respond with significant aggression to the assassination of their supreme leader. It would essentially be a return to the initial situation. Now, if you believe that the uncertainties surrounding assassinations are too high and prefer to obliterate any defensive arsenal, prevent the rise of a revenge-seeking successor, and think nuclear means are the way to go, then that's one perspective. This method might safeguard the nation launching the nuclear attack, but it poses catastrophic consequences for North Korea and its weapons arsenal. However, the downside is that it's perilous for the rest of the world too. Presently, there are approximately 13,080 acknowledged nuclear warheads worldwide, with 9 nations boasting nuclear capacities. Charting them out, they include China, Russia, the U.S., the U.K., Pakistan, France, India, Israel, and naturally, North Korea. Among them, Russia tops the list with about 6,257 warheads, followed closely by the U.S. with around 5,500. China possesses roughly 350, whereas North Korea is on the lower end with an estimated 50 to 60. The sheer magnitude of these warheads' destructive capability is beyond comprehension. Modern nuclear weaponry possesses an explosive yield up to 80 times greater than the atomic bomb that President Harry Truman authorized for Hiroshima. Detonating such a device over North Korea would be calamitous for neighboring nations, including China, South Korea, and Japan. Consequently, the nation that chooses to launch such an attack would face the severe repercussions from these neighboring countries. From radiation-induced ailments to the contamination of waters, the fisheries sector in the Korean region would be hit hard. The nuclear aftermath impacts everyone. Furthermore, countless North Koreans who have no direct association with Kim Jong-un's leadership would pay the ultimate price. This mutual threat of devastation is precisely why the Cold War never saw an actual nuclear confrontation. It was universally understood to be catastrophic for all involved. Considering these implications, perhaps launching a nuclear attack isn't the solution. But then, how does one dismantle a dysfunctional leadership and usher in democracy? An organized military invasion involving a coalition of countries like France, Britain, the U.S., South Korea, and Japan could potentially overpower North Korea. However, organizing such an operation, given North Korea's geographical position and its nuclear capabilities, would be incredibly complex. Considering the regional dynamics, China and Russia lie to the north of North Korea, while South Korea and Japan are situated to the south and east. Directly advancing through the territories of Russia or China isn't a viable option, given their historical inclination towards North Korea. Aerial deployment of troops isn't feasible either, as North Korean air surveillance would almost certainly detect such maneuvers. This narrows down the options to either a naval assault or a direct ground invasion via South Korea. Naturally, North Korea is well aware of these potential avenues of invasion. The demilitarized zone that bisects North and South Korea is heavily fortified, boasting defense mechanisms that include the soon-to-be operational hypersonic missile, which could reach Seoul in under a minute. Consequently, any substantial mobilization of troops preparing to invade from the south would be promptly detected. Approaching from the Yellow Sea isn't feasible either, as China wouldn't permit a foreign military to position itself on its doorstep with an intention to strike North Korea. Similarly, the Sea of Japan isn't a strategic option due to Russia's watchful presence. Even if, hypothetically, Russia were to turn against North Korea, the likelihood is that North Korea's defense systems would detect any large-scale naval activity. Let's speculate further. If both China and Russia decide to cooperate in a joint invasion, The subsequent challenge would be to pinpoint the locations of North Korea's nuclear and other lethal arsenals. This is where North Korea's insularity becomes an asset. Even though there's limited intelligence on the whereabouts of these weapons, whispers hint at extensive subterranean networks that Kim Jong-un and his inner circle might use for mobility. They would certainly have an intricate knowledge of these pathways, granting them an advantage in ambushing unsuspecting invaders. In the event of a successful Allied invasion, the human cost could be enormous, with the brunt borne by both North and South Koreans, especially considering Seoul's proximity to the border. And after all that, the ensuing challenge would be managing a country without a head of state. History has shown that deposing autocrats often brings with it a slew of complications. Consider the situations in Iraq, Libya, Egypt, and the ongoing crisis in Yemen. North Korea might have its own set of deeply rooted issues, some even worse than what's known. Given the limited insight into the country's state, launching an invasion is fraught with risks. There has to be a more efficient strategy, one that avoids chaos and significant loss of life. Sometimes, forcing a regime to capitulate involves strangling their resources. We're talking about serious sanctions here, not just those making news headlines. We need to focus on North Korea's major lifeline, China. They don't just share a geographical boundary. 80–90% of North Korean trade happens with China. This support from China allows Kim Jong-un to sidestep most sanctions from the UN or the West. However, severing this bond could force North Korea to adopt diplomatic strategies, lessen their militaristic endeavors, or even face internal unrest. China, though, has vested interests in maintaining the status quo between the North and South. Their support is more about geopolitical convenience than genuine backing for the North Korean leadership. Given South Korea's affinity with Washington, a unified Korea could lead to a US military base right at China's doorstep. Given the increased US military activity in Japan and South Korea, China's reluctance to hand over the Korean peninsula to the US makes sense. Also, a destabilized North Korea might send a wave of refugees China's way. For China to side with global powers against North Korea, they would need assurances, including a commitment against US military setups in Northern Korea and a global refugee plan. While this might sound far-fetched, considering recent strains in Kim Jong-un and in China's President Xi Jinping's relationship, there might be a window. Their differing views, especially concerning North Korea's nuclear ambitions, which Xi isn't enthusiastic about, could be leveraged. However, if the usual methods seem ineffective, it might be worth exploring unconventional ones, like the money bomb. Imagine airdropping copious amounts of counterfeit North Korean currency throughout the nation. As this fake money circulates, it would hyperinflate the market, thereby diminishing the value of their currency, the won. The devalued won could force the country to rely on foreign currencies. This unorthodox approach would create an economic imbalance, potentially challenging the regime's longevity. By transitioning to foreign currencies like the Chinese yuan or the US dollar, North Korea would inadvertently become more reliant on global financial institutions. This shift would force Kim Jong-un and his inner circle to reallocate assets, drawing attention from international financial watchdogs. While Kim might resort to escalating his illicit activities, such as arms and drug trades, to fund his military ambitions, this strategy could leave the general populace demanding explanations. While the money bomb concept is intriguing, its implications might not be as straightforward. Similar economic tactics, like those witnessed in Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe, led to hyperinflation without necessarily deposing the leader. If applied to North Korea, a country already grappling with poverty, it could exacerbate the situation further. Therefore, if North Koreans are to truly challenge the regime, they'd need to see past the Kim dynasty's mystique. One possible strategy, ironically, involves employing North Korea's own tactics against them: information control. Exposing the regime's intricacies and debunking the myths around Kim Jong-un's leadership might be the most non-violent approach to counteract the dictatorship. This would empower the citizens as they become increasingly aware of their nation's realities. Despite the nation's isolated status, the ailing economy and ensuing hardships have given rise to black markets. These markets, often stocked with smuggled goods from China, offer North Koreans glimpses of life beyond their borders. Through covertly circulated USEBs and DVDs containing international documentaries, reality shows, and films, citizens get a taste of external realities. A coordinated effort to flood North Korea with truth, including stories from defectors, could be impactful. However, distributing such material comes with risks, including severe punishments for those discovered. Here's where tech giants like Apple and Microsoft might be useful, leveraging their resources to disseminate information en masse. Such widespread awareness could spark a Korean spring. This strategy, along with the aforementioned money bomb tactic and diplomatic pressure on China, might be more feasible than one would initially believe. If the international community makes a concerted effort, emphasizing that allies like Japan and South Korea stand ready to defend any retaliatory moves by North Korea, it could catalyze change. Kim Jong-un, like many dictators before him, might find himself cornered and compelled to flee. It's challenging to instigate a grassroots revolution, but a combination of these approaches might just be the solution. Even as Kim tries to enhance his military arsenal, the pressure might deter any drastic actions, providing the populace ample opportunity to muster resistance. By combining these strategies and ensuring a non-nuclear approach, the fall of the regime is perhaps inevitable. After all, even the most absolute of reigns come to an end, something even a leader as absolute as Kim Jong-un must realize.